Well, here we are in the Polk County Agricultural Development Center. I'm not sure that title is correct, but I'll be corrected if it isn't right. And I'm talking to a couple of people who are very passionate about the work they're involved in. And thus far on these little programs that we call the Voices of the Foothills, we haven't covered a very important part of Polk County. And I suddenly realized, hey, agriculture, that is the big up-and-coming thing. It's always been here, but I think it's kind of backed up a little bit, and now it's going forward like crazy. And what two people to talk about it more than Don Jordan and Lee Mink. Those names are probably familiar to those of you who are natives here, and we're going to talk to them about what's going on with the crops, the vineyards, and everything else that's going on around here. So thank you so much. I know you're busy, but Don, you have been appointed interim director, I believe, for the Agriculture Development Center. Am I correct in the title?
Yes, my official title is Interim Agricultural Economic Development Director for Polk County.
Well, that's a big title for a little girl, right, Lee?
That's a pretty big title.
Yeah. So you're just coordinating. I'll find out more about what you actually do, but you're also involved in, your family is involved, you're native here, right?
I'm a native here. I grew up in Polk County, went to school here, graduated, moved away for about 20 years and moved back with my family about 7 years ago. So I've been pretty heavily involved in the agricultural community since that time.
Your family has you kind of have a multi-business. You want to give us what the title of that is?
We have lots of enterprises that go on our property, and our property is very much agriculture. It was part of the Green River Plantation, which was very agriculturally based. So we do some farming. We do have a property that's leased out to another grower. We have several business enterprises that operate off the farm, firewood business, some other enterprises, a ministry facility that also operates there, as well as family members. So there's a lot that goes on there.
Well, you're a busy gal even before you took this interim job, and we'll find out more about what that entails. Lee Mink, are you a native Polk Countyan?
No, I'm not a native to Polk County, and I've lived in different places all over the country. But Polk County feels more like home than any place I've ever lived.
How long have you lived here?
About 11 to 12 years, somewhere in that neighborhood.
You're a native now.
Well, it's more home than any place I've ever lived.
What brought you here?
Never made a conscious decision to move here. Got lost in Polk County one day. Mm-hmm. Within 90 days after that, I'd purchased a house in Polk County. It's just, things just lined up that way, and it just happened.
Just meant to be. You're a native of what state?
I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama. Anyway, and farming background is I sold produce at the Birmingham Farmers Market when I was a child, and got into farming as far as actually growing something after my first child was born in the mid-'80s, and I've been farming ever since. Started production farming in the late '90s once I found out what genetically modified seeds were.
What was that? Genetically modified seeds. Okay.
What genetically modified seeds are is it's an unlike species that's been integrated into another unlike species. Now, what do I mean by that?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Kind of explain it. It's a fish gene in a tomato.
It's a fish gene and a tomato.
Incorporated in a tomato. Or it's bacillus thurinide incorporated into corn.
Don, I think we're in another country.
That's for sure, yes.
Well, the thing about what made me get into farming for production is because genetically modified seeds have patents. Once they put a gene from an unlike species into a seed, the company who developed it gets a patent on it. And they have intellectual property rights with that patent. So just to kind of condense it, and so we don't spend the whole time talking about genetically modified seeds, the issue that I have with it is that if that seed that someone has developed cross-pollinates with my seeds on my farm or my plants on my farm, then they own my crop because the intellectual property rights follow the gene. And it does not matter how it gets there. It could be through the wind, through cross-pollination. It could be from the feet of a bird who had pollen on their feet that landed on my crops. But when I found out about this, it became kind of a moral imperative for me to farm, because there's a few corporations, mainly 4, that are heavy into genetically modified seeds, and they pretty much dominate the world seed supply as of today. So Leap's farm response to that is to grow the old heirloom varieties, save these old seeds, maintain genetic diversity through saving these old seeds, so.
Should I save my old seeds for you?
Well, I teach a lot of farming classes, teaching people how to farm and the how-tos, and the one thing that I encourage the most is for them to save seeds and to pass it on to each other and build a network for seed saving within this county and the surrounding counties.
Would you say that is your kind of your goal right now, that one project?
Well, that's always been the dominant reason why I farmed, but I have, as you get into local sustainable farming, your goals broaden, and you see how your objectives, whatever objective you started with, kind of mutates and grows. And we look. Being a sustainable farmer, you always look at whole systems. And so it's not just about farming today, it's about building local economies, building community, because if we're going to have a future that's viable, there's a lot of things that we have to do instead of maintaining the status quo. We have to look forward and see what's good for community. Anyway, I could go on.
Well, this would make a whole. I think I'm in over my head.
It'd probably be a 2 or 3 part series.
Yeah.
all I remember
just
when
tell them to come to one of my classes.
We'll maybe close off with something about these classes you're talking about and how receptive people are to that, because this sounds like something very involved, and yet I'm sure you make it very simple. But I remember the simple part of farming. I was here one day in the country store here at the Ag Center. And in Mill Spring, we might add, for those who aren't familiar where the Ag Center is. And he was here in the country store with some fresh kale, I believe it was, and it was wet, and he was fluffing it. So the last time I saw Lee Mink, we were fluffing kale.
Well, that's true. That's one thing about farming. There's always something to do and not enough hours in the day.
Okay. So I'll let you rest just a minute. I don't think you need to, because you really are passionate, as I say, about this. And it, well, as I say, I'm in over my head when I talk to someone this smart about agriculture. I know nothing except the end product that I love to eat. Don, what would you like to say about what you've learned in your 8 years or so of farming here? What have you learned about the importance of agriculture for Polk County?
Well, it's very interesting because we all come at things from a little bit different perspective, but that's when we come together to the same point, we know we're on the right track. Lee was doing it from a perspective of this is very important that we save these seeds and save our future as far as the natural resources that we have. Yeah. I came at it because I wanted to provide something wholesome and healthy for my family. I wanted to be able to begin producing things for my family to benefit them, and to know that I could do this. I had some concerns about where are we going in our society and our economy and the world focus of large-scale farming and others owning the seeds and the crops. There was just some concern there for me, and so that's how I got started. It was more of a relational end of things for me, and immediately came into Polk County learning some things about what was going on. It was right at the time that Polk County had hired an agricultural interim economic development director.
There had never been one before.
There had not. There had not been one before Lynn Sprague, and so they were very forward thinking in that. And so being involved with him straight from the beginning gave me a really good perspective of I knew agriculture had always been here in Polk County. It was just kind of there in the background. But he brought it to the forefront, and rightly so, because it is a very integral part of our community and our economy. It's very much a backbone of our economy. And so through these last 5 years, looking at the opportunities that farmers have and have had traditionally, large-scale farmers are doing wholesale growing and selling. And now the market has turned to very much a local interest on food. Where does know your farmer, know your food? People want to know where their food is coming from. They don't want to realize that it's being trucked in from 500 miles away. There's something just doesn't feel right about that. We've realized that. The education side of things is very much a passion of mine. 6 or 7 years ago, when I first began to move into this field, people didn't really want to talk about it a whole lot, about, just raising chickens in the backyard or having a garden, at least the ones that were my age and younger. And I came to realize that that was largely because they felt so disconnected from it. And they realized that they should know some of these very basic questions.
In other words, they were kind of apart. They did not have a unity as far as farming.
Correct. They were just totally out of touch with their food sources and, what was even seasonal. I mean, we've been used to getting tomatoes in January. Well, you're not going to get local fresh tomatoes in January. It just doesn't work. But we've been conditioned to expect that. And so when people began to get some insight into, well, maybe this is not normal and I don't know why, first they were a little standoffish because they thought, gosh, I am really just don't know anything about this. I'm, just by and large ignorant. And that's not a bad thing. It just meant I haven't had exposure to this. But now people are just hungering for this knowledge. They want to know how to do some things themselves. They want to know what a genetically modified seed is. They want to know who are growing things in the area, where they can get those things, what they can do to support it, what they can do themselves. And so I feel very passionate about teaching people to just get started doing something for yourself, grow something for yourself, so we're connected to the soil.
My daughter Lynn should have talked to you all, well, of course she's considers herself a friend of both of you. But the season this year has been horrible with all the rain and so forth. And, of course, farming is one of the most undependable, I would think, the most undependable occupations you can have because we're depending upon Mother Nature, and she hasn't been very kind this year. Has this rain put a damper on the enthusiasm people have for farming? You want Lee to take this one?
I'll take that one. Okay. Well, being a farmer, you're going to have to be an eternal optimist anyway.
Yeah.
I always tell people we don't have to go to Las Vegas because when you put a seed in the ground, you don't know what the outcome's going to come.
You gamble every day.
Yeah, but farmers live with purpose and passion.
Yes.
There's an intrinsic value in farming that you're never going to get rich. In some years, you're not even really going to make a living farming. You have to be committed to the long haul. If you're going to be a farmer, you have to choose it as a way of life, not as a career. But there's value in that. Now, as far as this year is concerned, it's probably been the most difficult year I've ever had farming for production. That being said, even in early June, I knew that most farmers might be lucky to get their money back. That's how difficult the year was going to be, just because it pretty much rained every day. At my farm, I've had about 75 inches for the year already. It's the first few days in September. We normally only average about 61. For the year. We still have approximately 4 months to go. That being said, as a sustainable farmer, I don't look at it on a yearly basis. I look at the healthy living soils, the health of the land. We have been in and out of drought for the last 4 to 5 years and been deficient in rain. I think we had 1 year of average rainfall in the last 5 years. My outlook is like this. Yes, we've had a lot of rain. Now, that might not be good for farming, but it's good for the land in general. And if you're looking at the health of the land, which you always do in sustainable farming, then this year is a blessing.
What's the definition for, that word is used a lot, sustainable farming?
There's lots of definitions, and actually I made my own definition, but it has
we'll take that
parts. I can't do the whole thing right now, just off the cuff. But I would say the most integral ingredient is to build a healthy living soil so that you're not taking from the land, you're always putting back more than you take. So to kind of paraphrase that or condense it, I tell people I farm with my granddaughter's future in mind. I would like the land to be healthier if she decides to farm, my land to be healthier than when I started farming. And that's way different than conventional farming process where you're using synthetics.
Do you what do you put back into the soil to keep it healthy? I mean, that's another whole program.
Big thing. Well, one thing I do is grow a lot of genetic diversity.
What does that mean? Hold it. Just I found someone that can out-talk you and me, Dawn. That's what I said earlier. You're so passionate about this, and there's so much you have to tell people. We could never do it in even one or two interviews. But bottom line, okay.
Well, I do a lot of cover cropping to add.
What's that?
That's adding when my fields are idle or I don't have a crop in those fields. I grow a cover crop, which is basically a green manure, and that could be buckwheat, winter rye, winter wheat, oats, summer peas, and I incorporate that back into the soil. So instead of adding in synthetic, I'm adding and incorporating in a natural living fertilizer.
So you're making it kind of sustain itself.
Well, it's sustainable. Another way to look at it is this way. The inputs I use to farm originate in Polk County, not from 1,000 miles or 2,000 miles away from here. I don't have to have inputs from outside this county to farm. And that would be a big difference between sustainable agriculture versus conventional agriculture.
Now, I want to get to an important point, and that is you're teaching other people. In other words, at first, Dawn, you said you felt that they were a little reluctant. They were kind of doing this individually. Now it seems that since Lynn Sprague established this Ag Center and started getting the farmers together, do you feel that now they're willing to open up their minds to things like Lee or you might have to teach them?
Yes, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. There's a community coming around agriculture here in Polk County that was not here before. I mean, we've had farmers, they know each other, the ones who've been here for decades. Yeah. They know each other. They communicate. They have a great network. But that is expanding into the community at large. People who are moving in, who haven't been here, are getting involved in educational classes to learn some of these terms, because there's a lot of terms to learn and understand the language, so to speak, but they also want to know how they can be involved, whether they're actually doing something themselves or supporting someone else or buying from a CSA or a local farmer, all of those things. So there is a huge education piece. So many things are going on right now educationally. We have the farm tour that's coming up in a few weeks. There's Farm to Fork dinner coming up. There's lots of classes that go on here at the Ag Center all through the winter, and they are full. They're very diverse. There's lots of different offerings, and so the people here in the community are looking for opportunities to learn. I was just looking in the paper yesterday. There's some things going on, some classes going on that I didn't even know about. And I'm like, this is great,
Well, now, the classes, you do teach classes here at the Ag Center mostly, or
yes,
where?
There's one scheduled for about the 16th or the 17th of January, and it's a how-to 16-hour course that starts with defining what sustainable farming is, and then going to how to build healthy living soils, and it ends with seed saving, and it pretty much covers everything in between. But one thing, to get back kind of what Dawn was talking about and what's happening in Polk County, when I first moved here, there were about 5 to 6 farmers at the Columbus market. That's it. Today, between a lot of people who had been farming had sold their property and moved out of Polk County during the economic boom, housing boom. What's happened is now people are reinvigorated to stay in farming. Between the Columbus, Tryon, and Saluda market, there's probably 50 farmers growing for production now, today.
How many at the market?
Probably 50 total.
Right.
But that being said, let's take chickens. That's a great example. There are probably, everybody I know is raising chickens now pretty much.
Oh, we have the freshest eggs in the country here.
Right, and there's been classes. Well, I'm talking about just for home use. Yeah. And a lot of these people have designs to get into the local farming for production, but they're starting small. But I would imagine there are literally hundreds of people raising chickens in this county at a small scale. There's literally hundreds of people doing small sustainable farms in this county now. That wasn't the case 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, and it's grown exponentially as what we've done is built community.
Right.
That's what's happened in Polk County. I would say that the greatest asset for the job of the agricultural economic developer has been that it's built community in Polk County. And I can't think of anything else in this county that has done more to achieve that mindset and that active participation in the community other than farming and agriculture.
Do you consider in the I'm watching. We're going to have to do this again sometime, okay? And find out before we close about these classes. People have to register for those, I presume.
Yes.
Yeah. Do they register here?
They can register online. They can do it here in person, but everything is online at the polkcountyfarms.org website. And you can do everything there, register, pay for the classes. And each class is different depending on what's being offered and how long it is and what type of materials and what you may leave with. One of the classes he was talking about, chickens, there is a small-scale poultry processing class. And you can come and learn how to process your chicken, and you go home with a chicken. So, it's wonderful. And see, that's just a perfect example of when we first started, I told Lynn Sprague I would like to offer this. And he was like, oh, I'm not sure how that's going to go over. It was the most popular stop on the tour.
Even chicken processing?
Chicken processing. Everybody wanted to know how to do it. And I got so many comments on, I'm not sure I really want to know, but I think I need to know how to do this. So, that's just been something that's really grown as to I can do this.
My mother was way ahead of all this because I can remember her getting chickens, live chickens, and we didn't think of, I don't even like to think about it, but anyway, but she would keep them, and I think they would put a basket over them for 24 hours ahead or something. I don't, this is all when I was just real young. We were in Depression years, and so you did what you could to have food on the table. We weren't poor, we just didn't have money, and there's a difference. But I can remember her, I don't remember, she would, I'm not going into detail about it, but she would pluck them then and dip them in, once they were dead, she would dip them in scalding water. And I can remember that smell of chicken feathers. But it was food for the table. Right. And we didn't think about, now, I just don't like to think about it, but it was good and it was fresh. And tasted like nothing.
A cute little story.
Okay.
We sell chicks as well off of our farm. We sell a lot of them. And we used to have them very often at the farmer's market. And there was this young couple that almost every week they came by, and they had the cutest little girls you'd ever want to see, about 2 and 4. And so, of course, they wanted to see the little chicks, and things like this. And so the little 4-year-old was holding one and just looking at it, and her father leaned down and he said, oh, honey, it's so cute. What is that one's name? And she looked at him and she said, this one's name is Food. Food. And the dad looked up at me and he said, well, we've really been working on teaching them where their food comes from. I guess it's working.
Oh, that is cute. The innocence of children, isn't it? Our time's flying by, but I would love to come back and maybe go into a little bit more detail, and I'm sure we have a lot of detail that Mr. Mink over here could and let him educate me at least. You probably learn a few things from him occasionally, don't you?
Oh, my goodness. I just want to sit and listen to him talk all day long.
My daughter says that you're the one of the most passionate people about your avocation. It's not your occupation, although you're occupied all the time. But that is so good because, we've gradually over the centuries, we've kind of destroyed Mother Nature, I think. Mm-hmm. And I think that people like Lee Mink and Dawn Jordan and her family, I think the fact that it's being done right here in Polk County, we can see that it's necessary. We're going to have to do this in order to preserve our beautiful country. And in closing, I'll let you all have the final word here. In closing, what would you like to say about, I want one question. Do you consider the vineyards and the buffalo breeders or whatever and I think we have some alpacas or llamas or something. Is that, you consider that part of agriculture, do you not?
Yes.
I consider it part of agriculture, and this goes back to what I started to say earlier. And this is a mantra for farming on Leap Farm. Albert Einstein said the more diverse environment is, the healthier it is. And that's what we try to do. The more diversity we have in this county, the more diversity we have on each farm, the more we ensure our food security in the future, and having a local viable economy based on food. The more diversity, the better.
Yes. Good, healthy food.
Yes, absolutely. I'm in total agreement. And I think the best piece of advice I got in this area was, don't get overwhelmed, just get started. Do something.
That's a great point. And there are literally hundreds of people in Polk County, not just the 50 growing for production farmers now. There are hundreds of people in this county participating on small scale in agriculture in this county, and that was not the case 5 years ago. And that's how much it's changed in a very short period of time.
Someone got together and decided, hey, we need to do something. We have a beautiful countryside here. We have beautiful land and an opportunity to make some use of it.
Well, one of the big things is that, a few years ago we had the survey that went out, determine what Polk County's future were going to be and what the preferences were for the reference of the county, what they call it, the visioning statement or something like that. I forget. But the number one response that people had in the county and what they wanted to see in Polk County was to maintain the rural character of this county. And that's what's been done. It's been done through agriculture, but through agriculture it's kind of expanded into local businesses. In other words, neighbors spending money with their neighbors, and to keep Polk County rural where its neighbors taking care of neighbors. And I just see that trend to keep expanding in the years to come, even more so than it is today. And it's already huge, but it's going to be.
It's an industry.
It's going to be the industry, and it suits Polk County perfectly. That being said, I get up every day thankful that I live in Polk County. I cannot think of a better place in this country to live right now, in this day, in this age, than Polk County, because we built such a community that it transcends political and social and economic lines, where it's built a community that is dependent upon each other for our livelihoods and for our quality of life in the future to come.
Everyone has a common goal, and I think when you have a common goal, it unites everybody.
Yes, we can all agree on food.
We can all agree on that.
And I'm very proud to be back in Polk County. I mean, it's I'm a native here. It's really in my heart, and I'm very thankful that our leaders were very forward thinking in with their farmland preservation to say this is important. We need to preserve our farmland. We need to look at how we're going to do that because it is important for our future. It's very important for the culture and the community we have here, and it does. It fits perfectly with Polk County. And so we are doing everything we can to encourage new farmers, anyone, doing something to preserve that heritage that we have, because if we are preserving that farmland, we have to have farmers to preserve it.
That's a good close off too. Well, I can't think of anything that's going to add anything to what you all have said except to thank you for giving me your time, because farming is a 52-week, 7 days a week, 24-hour-a-day job, and I admire and respect anyone who's out there making a living from farming. And right here in the garden spot of the world, I say it's a crossroads of the world, because we have people from all over who come here, and you're not using the land, you're improving the land. Mm-hmm. And I think that's great. This is, I want to go fluff some spinach or kale or something with lean outs. But I do want to thank you again. And will you give me some time again, maybe when you have some if there is such thing as idle time during the cold months ahead, and we'll talk about some things that maybe you have in mind that haven't maybe taken fruition yet, but that you'd like to see done. Could we do that?
Yes, we can do that.
Good deal.
Yes, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Thank you so much. So we're going to close off here from the Polk County Agricultural Development Center, the old school that's been revitalized. And thanks to a group of men, I don't know who they all were, but they at least hired Lynn Sprague that got all this started. And I think that's great. And we'll take it from here. And we'll leave you all with our thought to be kind to one another. And come and visit us here in the friendliest spot in the South, Polk County, here in the Voices of the Foothills. Thank you so very much. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.